60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Why would you want to kill Dele Gewa?
Please, don't even ask me that question. Because it is not sweet.
Yes.
Don't even ask me. I don't even want to listen to it or to, hear it, because I don't know how much you know about my personal relationship with Dele. Anytime I talk about this, it's just very emotional. Because I am a lucky person to be alive, to be talking to you. I could have been dead with him.
Well, hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetomobi. Thank you for joining me on the program today. My host today is a distinguished journalist, author, and politician. He's a publisher, the editor-in-chief of Africa Today magazine, the magazine he founded in 1995. His magazine is described by Wikipedia as the most influential news magazine in more than 90 countries worldwide. He's also a visiting scholar at Wolfson College in Cambridge. So, join me after the break as I count down 60 minutes with KAYODE Soyinka, publisher, Africa Today magazine. Welcome back. Welcome, Mr. Soyinka. Thank you very much for coming on 60 Minutes with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you've had a distinguished career as a journalist. You've been an academic journalist, privileged to attend some of the most prestigious journalism schools in the world, the College of Journalism on Fleet Street, that's in London, Cambridge, Wolfson College, where you are a visiting scholar. And I can't help but think of just you as a little boy from Ogun State in Nigeria, reaching all these heights. Did you anticipate when you started out that you would get to the height of your profession?
The truth of the matter is that, no, I didn't expect it was going to turn around like that. Because when I finished at school, I went to Baptist Boys High School in Abeokuta. I did a few months, stint in Lagos at PZ. While I was trying to determine what my life, would be. I had 2 or 3 options: to study law, study political science, or go into journalism. So the very first opportunity that came my way was journalism.
Yes.
And I was introduced to the Sketch, in Ibadan. I was actually interviewed by the Sketch as a, reporter. On the day of the interview, I was the only young person there. I was just about 18 years old.
Yes.
I didn't have a chance of getting the job at the Sketch because all those other guys who came for interview, they were from the Daily Times in Lagos.
Yes.
They've been in the business for quite a long time. So I was interviewed and they asked me what I want to offer. I said, well, look, maybe I will be a sports reporter. I thought that was the easiest way of getting in. Luckily, I was given the job. The very first day I got into the Sketch, I didn't even stay inside the sports desk.
Yes.
I went straight into the newsroom. I was a cub reporter. I was a rookie. The senior reporter that I was attached to, Kayode Muritala, was the one that I was following every day, who was teaching me what is news, how to get the intro constructed, what to look out for. So I was covering cases that you wouldn't like to cover now. Profiteering cases. Obasanjo was military head of state at that time. So those who are overcharging customers, in their shops for buying beer and things like that, they would charge them to court, magistrate courts. I was covering customary courts, wives and husbands. You had domestic violence and conflicts in the house. That was what I was covering.
Yes.
Until eventually I got my lucky break, and something happened locally where I lived, and I followed it through, and that was a major story. I got my front page for the very first time, my first front page lead.
Exciting.
That made me in the sketch.
Yes.
And I swore to myself that I would not, as from that day, write a story that would go into the inside pages. My stories will always be front page lead or back page lead. On the worst day, maybe page 3 lead, which was the third most important
page in the newspaper.
I did that consistently, and I believe that attracted me to the management.
The world of journalism.
And it was a sketch that sent me out, first of all, to train me properly at the College of Journalism in Fleet Street that you referred to. And then while I was there, they made me London correspondent. And then when the Concord newspapers started,
yes.
I didn't apply for that job, mind you. They actually had haunted me.
From the sketch.
And from the sketch, exactly. And I became the pioneer London correspondent for the Concord group of newspapers. I set up their London bureau on High Holborn, which is a parallel street to Fleet Street. That is the way. That is the place to be.
That's the center of journalism. Yes.
Globally. And Chief Abiola didn't do his thing in a small way. He wanted to be there.
Yes.
He had a vision for the Concord newspapers. I worked the Concord group as London correspondent for 4 years. When I left, I joined Peter Enahoro, as the general editor in Africa Now. And while I was there, my friends in Newswatch, who are the founders of Newswatch, Delegiwa, Ray Epu, and Yakubu Mohammed, they were already planning their exit from Concord, and they were talking, to me,
yes.
because they wanted also to establish a bureau, immediately in London.
Yes.
So I became an expert in establishing bureaus, So I had to leave Peter, to join Delegiwa, Reyepu, Yakubu, and Dan Agbese when Newswatch was founded. Peter, I remember, called me, and we had a very long discussion on the telephone for over an hour when I resigned. And he didn't want me to leave. And Peter knew that, no, he lost me there. After Newswatch, and with what I went through in Newswatch with the letter bomb, there had to be a decision I had to make. Usually I don't spend more than 5 years, in any establishment.
Working for anyone.
I always move on,
yes.
Because of the terrible incident of the letter bomb in Newswatch, I had to wait for 10 years. I actually was London bureau chief, no longer London correspondent. There's a difference between those two things for 10 years. And then I thought, look, it was time to move
start
on.
Yours.
Yes. So when I had them, and I wrote my book, Diplomatic Baggage,
yes.
Within that period of time as well, just to buy time,
yes.
Because that book was on the kidnap of Umaru Diko, in London, which was the most sensational event of Nigerian interest throughout my 18 years career.
Let's talk about that book before you move along. You met personally with Umaru Diko. Was that towards writing the book or afterwards?
I'd been wanting to interview Umaru Diko even before attempting to write the book.
Right.
Because when the kidnap, took place, I was in Africa Now and I covered it, at that time. And I had been wanting to interview him, for the Nigerian readers.
Yes.
Well, now through Newswatch, and if he was going to grant anyone, interview at that time, I thought I would be the first person that he would like to talk to. He knew that himself, but for one reason or the other, he refused to grant me or anyone else, an interview.
Yes.
But look, I mean, a good reporter must be a good news hound. I never left him, alone. Even if it's to say, hello, good evening, sir, good afternoon, good morning, sir.
Yes.
I was always calling, him. When Newswatch was proscribed and I was doing nothing, I had to go to the College of the Graduate School of Journalism in City University in London to do a master's. So I did that. Immediately I finished that. Then Wolfson College invited me to be a visiting scholar.
Right.
So my project, when I was asked for, I said, well, look, I have this book that I've been wanting to write.
Yes.
So I'll do it.
Do that.
Well, at Wolfson. So I went to Umaru Diko. I said, look, Wolfson College, they are inviting me to come, and I'm writing a book about your experience, the kidnap. At that time, he realized that, yes,
this story needs to be told.
Exactly. So he supported me, in writing the book. He gave me ample time, to discuss with him. And after that, I did several other interviews for Newswatch with Umaru Diko. I don't think that he ever spoke, with any journalist, whether Nigerian or
foreign. Yes.
As much as he did, with me.
And you've also had distinguished interactions with a lot of people, the late Nelson Mandela, Nobel laureate, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, of course, late MKO, you worked for, the Concord, former British Prime Minister James Callaghan, former Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary Lord Geoffrey Howe,
yes.
Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Sir Sonny Ramfor,
yes.
and former Deputy Commonwealth Secretary General Emeka Anyoko.
Yes.
You know, as a journalist, it's a dream to always want to interview people like these. These are people who have distinguished themselves
yes.
in their careers. What is the one thing that you would think kept making them want to speak with you?
Let's take Mandela, for instance. His very first OAU conference, OAU we used to call it, Organization of African Unity before
yes.
it became African Union, was in Tunis, in Tunisia, at the height of our June 12 crisis here,
wow.
In Nigeria. On that day, at the main hotel in Tunis, we weren't sure who was coming to represent Nigeria, whether it was General Abacha, who had already taken over as head of state, or it was Chief Abiola, who was in the wing.
Who was alleged to have won the election.
And had declared himself, president. The journalists who are covering the OAU on that day wanted to know what was going to happen as the heads of state were coming in, one by one. So there were two people that was centers of attention to newspaper reporters. Mandela, because it was his first, OAU summit,
yes.
and then Nigeria,
yes.
Abacha or Abiola. Mandela was the first to arrive, and with all that had happened in South Africa, now President Mandela, we all now have South Africa as member of the African family, so it was a warm welcome that President Mandela received. When Nigeria came, and then the motorcade, stopped.
Yes.
We saw the man with the glass, with the dark glasses.
And you knew who
it was. General, Abacha. On the second day, when the conference was declared open, Mandela made a very, very impassioned first speech
yes.
on the floor of the OAU, and he got a standing ovation, after making that speech. Now they wanted him to address a world press conference, and they didn't know what to do. You see, Joel Netin Shenze was his spokesman at that time. I saw him coming out, of the chamber, like he was looking for something, and I asked him what it was that he was looking for. He said, Madiba would like to do a press conference, and he didn't know, how we could organize
how to arrange it.
Dagash, who was the head of communications in the OAU, is a personal friend, so I rushed to him. I said, look, this is happening. So Dagash came quickly and organized, a hall, for Madiba. So when he finished inside there, he was brought in straight, to that hall, and we were all there. They came to me after to thank me for helping them, to fix, that.
Yes.
When I left Newswatch and I started Africa Today, we must get a Mandela interview for the very first edition of Africa Today. That was the only way I thought Africa Today could fly, around the world. My last assignment for Newswatch was in South Africa. You see, I was covering all the momentous events,
yes.
Going on at that time, the negotiations until the handing over to Mandela.
Yes.
So I'd had interactions, with them. So when I applied for that interview, I wasn't sure because we were talking about a magazine that was still, on the wall. It wasn't real,
yes.
I wasn't sure whether Madiba will say yes or no. And I was so pleased. I think it was on the 15th of February 1995.
Yes.
I got a fax coming in from the president's office in South Africa saying that the president would like to see me for an interview, and they gave me a time, a date in his office in Cape Town. And I must be there at the dot of 7 o'clock.
Yes.
In the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. That's early, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I got there at about 10 minutes to. They were waiting for me, and as they ushered me in to take my seat at the back, I just heard, I didn't know Soyinka is here. And I looked back. It was Mr. Mandela. All right, that was just about 7 minutes. You know, and I looked back and I good morning, sir. I said, how are you? You know, come in. We sat down.
Yes.
So if he was there on the dot, you remember in places like this, some people who are really...
Yes,
you'll
be waiting.
You will be waiting. You know, the President Mandela
Yes.
did not keep me waiting.
Yes.
7 o'clock we were, seated. You know, so that speaks volume, you know, about the, character of Mr. Mandela. I got Mandela when the New York Times, Washington Post, at the time they wanted Mandela,
Yes.
I got Mandela. So I said, well, we can't go below that. So I went for Bishop Desmond Tutu. And it was very important we got Bishop Desmond Tutu at that time, also because of what was going on in Nigeria. Chief Abiola was in jail. General Obasanjo was in jail. We wanted them out. I, on the committees, several committees within the Commonwealth, I also have that cap, on me. We had discussions, strategy discussions about this. And I made a contribution in one of the meetings to say that, look, what kept the anti-apartheid campaign going at the time it was going on was that there were some key people outside South Africa,
working
on it, campaigning, and a good example was the late Bishop Ostulin in London, who was the face of the anti-apartheid protest in Trafalgar Square, at that time. I told them that Nigeria at that time needed a face like that, a big face internationally. And the only person I could think of, was Desmond Tutu.
Yes.
If we could get Desmond Tutu
to drive this.
And say that, look, you cannot keep Chief Abiola in jail, you cannot keep General Obasanjo in jail. Somehow, there's always a way of getting this message across.
Yes.
And President Mandela decided to send Bishop Tutu to Nigeria to come and see General Abacha. Yeah. And again, that was an encounter. The bishop was so disappointed about Nigeria, and for good reasons, and he told me so. He said, for them in South Africa, Nigeria was the giant of Africa.
Yes.
People say all kinds of things about Nigeria, even up till today. Bishop Tutu was almost crying. He was at the tip of his chair. He said to me that Abacha kept him waiting, that he wanted to see a white man first. He was referring to the former American president, Jimmy Carter.
Yes.
Before seeing me, he was emphasizing a black man like him. That, well, I had to go when he had my time. And for the giant of Africa, he was saying, to descend so low in its human rights records and approach, he said it was a disgrace, not only to Nigeria, but to the whole, of us in the continent. So that's some of the things that we did behind the scene to keep the pressure going. It's a pity that we don't have Chief Abiola here. Thank God we have General Obasanjo. I was with him just last Saturday.
On the 8th of April.
That's right, yes.
All right. Join us again after the break.
Nice question.
Angela, that's a great question.
It's a good question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
That is a serious question. Angela, that is a very great question. Great question, Angela.
Angela, that's a very difficult question.
That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Angela, that's a tough one for me.
That's a good question. Good question.
I love to ask questions. I think it's what I do best. You see, I think that the fastest way to learn anything is to ask questions. The right questions, that is. Questions that help you get to the heart of the matter.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitumobi. On my hot seat today, KAYODE Soyinka is the publisher of Africa Today magazine. Of course, our very own Olusegun Obasanjo, the former president. I saw your post on social media on Saturday, April 9. You were with him. You had an early morning appointment with Chief Obasanjo. You said that you had 3 things in common with him. Owu Baptist and Baptist Boys High School. Explain further on that. Are you from Owu yourself?
I'm an Owu man, 100%.
Wow.
My father, Owu, my mother,
So Obadosumu is...
Actually, he's a cousin of mine.
Really?
Yeah, he represents the rolling house that my mother came from.
Wow.
Amororo rolling house. General Obasanjo is, very close to me. I'm not one of those people who take advantage of
the closeness.
Yeah. So I hadn't seen him for a very long time, and I sent in a word that I will be in the country. So if there was an opportunity for me to pop in just to say, good morning or good afternoon. And I got a telephone, and he was on the phone, and he told me that anytime I want, I'm free to walk in. So I said, okay, I heard that tomorrow will be fine. So I said, I'm around. So I went in very early in the morning, and I saw him. It was always nice to see. I still refer to him as General Obasanjo because I'm used to that more than the president that he finally became. The Ovu connection, yes, that is it. And then also, he's a Baptist like me. He's an old boy of Baptist Boys High School, Abeokuta.
Just like you.
Yes, you're just like me. If you have those three things in you, you will be friendly with General Obasanjo. Because those are three important things that he holds.
There.
Yeah, exactly. Opinion varies about General Obasanjo. There is something that happened, talking about Mandela. During the election that brought in Mandela as president of South Africa, he was an election observer in the polling booth where Mandela voted.
Yes.
When Mandela left after voting, he went straight to his car. And then Obasanjo came out. He wanted to greet Mandela. He was stopped by security from going to greet Mandela. And they asked for his identity. And he was saying to the security that he was General Obasanjo. He wanted to say hello to Madiba. The security looked at him from head to toe and said, "You are not General Obasanjo. General Obasanjo is a powerful man." We were just a few steps away and were watching the drama.
Yes.
We knew the security guy, and then we walked to him and said, "Look, that is General Obasanjo." So he said he should wait. And he went to Madiba and knocked on the window. So the window came down. Despite the fact that we told the man that we confirmed that was General Obasanjo, he didn't believe us.
Yes.
He was saying to Madiba, "There is somebody here who claims to be General Obasanjo who would like to say hello to you."
Yes.
So this man didn't even believe us. Anyway, then Madiba now looked out of the window and he saw him and he opened the door
and came down.
out. Olu, when did you come? How are you?
That's
and that was
priceless.
Exactly. And told Obasanjo that, "Look, you must, when are you going?" He said, "When we will be going, make sure you see me before you go." I don't know whether that is humility on Obasanjo's side, but that's another.
Or not. But you've had the ambition to be governor of your state, Ogun State. You've tried 3 times. In 2003, under Alliance for Democracy.
Yes.
In 2007, under Action Congress.
Yes.
And in 2011, under Action Congress of Nigeria.
Yes.
Did former President Obasanjo support you at any of these times?
No, we never met. You see, during all those 3 terms.
Yes.
So there was no question of even talking to him. And why should I really?
Yes.
Why should I talk to Obasanjo or talk to Oshoba or talk to Tinubu because I want to be governor?
But you stayed with the same party. I was thinking if you stayed with the same party, AD, AC, and they're all offshoots.
The point I'm trying to make, is this, because of the way the politics in this country is.
Yes.
At the moment, for God's sake, let us build institutions that work. Let the sons and daughters of carpenters and bricklayers aspire to the highest position of state.
Yes.
Without godfatherism, especially if you have something to offer.
Do you think it is because perhaps, for want of a better word to use,
Yes.
you did not have a good relationship with the founder of ACACN, the former governor Tinubu, or because you were seen as an outsider? Because my experience from traveling around and interviewing politicians is that the residents of a state often look at people who don't reside in the state as an outsider. So perhaps because you were living in England or you've never really lived in Ogun State, do you think that was a factor in you not being able to become governor?
Not in my case. Because I spent my childhood in Abeokuta. I went to BBHS.
Right, at the secondary school.
Yes. And the kind of family that I come from in Abeokuta are families that are not alien, to Abeokuta.
Yes.
Even if I had lived out of Abeokuta for 40 years,
Yes.
the day I return, is the return of the son of the soil.
Yes.
So I have that, in me. Even though I had spent 38 years abroad, I never stayed permanently abroad. I was always coming back
To Nigeria.
I had opportunities to take international jobs. I refused. And that worked to my own advantage, because today, when there is an issue on Africa, it's not unlikely that people will reach me first and sound me, out. And the people I interacted with in politics know that. It's not that they do not know me.
So why do you think that you have been unable, after you've tried 3 times?
Yes.
I don't know if you'll be trying again, like as they say, Buhari's luck. Maybe you will have Buhari's luck as well. After trying 3 times, he's finally made president. Why do you think you've been unable to get far in that sense?
When I did it in 2003 for the first time, I was contesting against Chief Oshoba, who was the incumbent governor. I knew he was not going to be returned.
Why or how did you know that?
I'm a journalist, first of all. And he is a journalist. He should have known. That was a moment when Chief Oshoba lost his journalistic instinct, because all the games they were playing in Abuja against, not him in particular, but he was one of those people they wanted to remove, because they were accusing President Obasanjo at that time, what did you actually bring? You didn't bring your own.
You don't have a base.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it was one of those people whose fate had been concluded in Abuja would not return. Actually, it was one key reason why I put my name forward to the Alliance for Democracy People as an alternative. Benga Daniel, that went to PDP, was part of us in the AD.
At the time.
At the time. And he was my schoolmate at Baptist Boys High School in Abeokuta 1 year ahead of me. Wouldn't it have been nice, if it was I and Daniel, new generation, type of politicians, people who are not really politicians, professional young people.
Yes.
I think that the result of that election will have been different. If because of what PDP was trying to achieve, Daniel won, I think the margin with me wouldn't have been that wide, especially if I'd had the backing.
If you had been the AD candidate.
And I'd had the backing, of the AD. And people of our generation didn't want to be in AD at that time, because they saw AD as Baba's party.
Yes.
Anything the Babas, said,
They were the elders.
Absolutely. So I started my effort from the Babas. I went first of all to Papa Olaniwu Ajayi in his place in the Remo area. And then I went to Adesoya, as well. I thought they would stop me. Ayode Banjo, I saw them.
Yes.
I thought they would say, we have a governor there already and we are supporting him. No, they didn't. None of them said they don't run. Actually, Papa Adesoya told me I should go back to my ward and let them know that I had spoken to him.
Yes.
All right, and that politics is not bad, he was saying to me. That it is people who are in politics that are bad.
Make it bad.
Yeah. You see, that he would like me to, give it a try. Personally, I did not believe I could beat Chief Oshoba at the primaries. But it is a job that I would like to do, because I believe I have so many things to offer my state. And Chief Oshoba will not stop me, from exercising my right to contest for the governorship of my state, just like he, did. I was only asking for a level playing field, which unfortunately was not provided on the day of the primaries. There were over 300 votes, and it took all the 300s, which means that even I myself did not have.
You did not vote for yourself.
For myself. That is the kind of politics, that we play. So. 2007, I tried again, because Oshoba was not running, you see, and I'd had experience of the first one, which I was going to put, into use. Chief Oshoba himself, after losing that election, was like in political exile in Lagos. Everybody was asking what was going on with AD in Ogun State. AD was almost dead in Ogun State. I, with humility, carried AD in my head for that duration of time. Then Dipodino, the late Dipodino, also joined. The two of us carried AD on our head, at that time. Other people had left to join PDP. I did not leave. I did not abuse elders in the party that they maltreated me, or like some people, did. I didn't get that ticket again in 2007. They gave it to Dipodino
Dipodino.
in a very, very controversial circumstance which I don't want to go into. That did not even discourage me.
Because you came back in
I came back again in 2011.
Yes.
At a time when it was the turn, if we believe about this rotation thing, of my own
Your zone.
senatorial zone. And I was the only one that had done it twice before. I was the only one within the Action Congress of Nigeria in Ogun State that contested to be governor and did not leave the party to go and join another party because they didn't give me the ticket. And I was so loyal to the party. I carried the party. I believed in the party.
Yes.
I worked with the party. Most of my supporters were former Chief Oshoba's supporters who actually liked me. But what happened? They went and brought somebody else who was not even a member of our party and handed the ticket to him. I was not there on the day they were handing the ticket to him because I see, look, it's an advantage to be a journalist because you always know ahead of time what was going to happen.
Yes.
So I would not stand there when they are giving ticket that I thought, in fairness, I could have, gotten to somebody else.
Would you still contest?
People have been asking me that question. Yes. Even on this trip to Nigeria, I've had people from the state, calling and saying things like...
Because the current governor is on his second term.
Based from my place. I do not know whether Ogun State people will be patient again or be so generous.
To have someone from the same
place. It's not only from my senatorial district. It's a woman like me, as well. But we are not God. I enjoy what I am, doing. But if it is still possible to serve, and that word I underline it, at this stage of my life and career, what I am offering is service.
Yes.
If I'm allowed to, So I cannot force myself on the people of Ogun State. But I really like my state and I like my people.
Are you happy with the performance of the current governor?
Yes. You know why? He has demonstrated courage by making attempts to modernize Ogun State. All those who led us in Ogun State prior to him didn't demonstrate the courage.
When you say
courage, look at the roads that he has built. People have to make sacrifices.
People accuse him that some homes have been lost.
Yes, that is huge.
Homes
that is huge. You know us in Abeokuta, in Ijebu, and if you say you are from Abeokuta, people will ask you for your family compound.
Yes.
And for you not to be able to point at your family compound today,
yes,
you won't accept $1 million for losing your family. So people have made sacrifices. I think maybe we would have done it. I would have done it differently if I was governor in Ogun State. But Amosun is the governor now, so let's
it's his problem.
Yeah, yes.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with KAYODE Soyinka, publisher, Africa Today magazine. I don't want to lose sight of one of the main reasons you are in Nigeria this April, the 2016 Africa Today China Africa Summit. It's a two-day event holding April 26 and 27, featuring three prominent speakers. Sir Vince Cable, it's the UK Business Secretary, 2010 to 2015. Professor Howard French from Columbia University in New York City, and Professor Yun Sun, Brookings Institute of Washington, D.C. What informed your choice of these three speakers?
I had to look for knowledgeable people to start with that we can learn from in terms of their own direct experiences with the subject matter. In this case, we are talking about China.
Yes.
China is big. Even in the West, China is investing massively in the West. And isn't it ironic that the West will tell us in Africa to be careful of...
not to do business with China.
Yeah, they see our relationship with China as a kind of new colonialism. In the UK, China has just invested massively in billions into their nuclear energy sector.
Yes.
And look at the biggest economy in the world, the US.
Yes.
The issue of China in the presidential election campaign going on. We in Africa, we have been very close to China for many years as well, either in terms of our political struggle, and now in terms of infrastructural and trade issues. And we thought it is topical, it is timely, apart from what our heads of government have done or they will be doing. Let us bring stakeholders together to really discuss these things intellectually. And if there are warnings, to be extended to our own people in ways of dealing with China, we can talk about all this in a summit. When we were planning our conference, and we've been working on this conference since last year, we didn't know that at the time we are doing this conference in Nigeria, President of Nigeria will be visiting.
What a coincidence.
Yes.
It works out well for
absolutely.
you.
And we'll be happy to have some of the people who are in the President's delegation to also come in to the conference. I spoke with some of them before they left.
Yes.
Some of them are going to deliver papers as well, in the conference. So I told them before they left that it's good that you are going, because you will be able to come back and your
practical experience.
we would like to have the advantage of listening to you. On this. Professor Howard French from Colombia actually is a journalist, as well, of many years standing. He was writing for the New York Times. He was the New York Times bureau chief in Beijing, and he dealt with China. And they had just written a book about China, Africa. He's a professor now at Columbia.
Yes.
You see, so it's also a privilege to have him. Professor Yun Sun is a Chinese, lady who is a researcher at the Brookings Institution, prestigious Washington D.C. based think tank, and advisor, to the U.S. government on China, Africa, and China generally, issue. These are very busy people, and I'm delighted as well. They didn't say no, to us.
Agreed to come.
They agreed, to come. It's an opportunity for our people in Nigeria to attend, throw questions to them, as well, based on their papers or based on the fears that we have. Let us listen to, what they would say. We are doing this in Africa. We introduced the conference and summit last year. And we brought in the very first conference to Nigeria last year. That was when I brought in the former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Shidra Tramphal. For that. And we thank the President Buhari. He welcomed us to the villa, as well, on a courtesy visit. We discussed the issue of the economic partnership agreement between the EU, and Africa, particularly with ECOWAS. Nigeria is the only country that hasn't signed that EPA because we do not like the agreement in its present form.
The agreement.
Absolutely. So that, again, that conference last year was very crucial. I know that I am not a popular person in the EU presently because of that conference. But look, when I started Africa Today 20 years ago, I said Africa Today, will support Africa. We speak for Africa. So what is of interest to our own people is of interest to us, in Africa Today. So we did that. And it was interesting that 90% of the participation, at the conference said Nigeria should not sign. So it's left for President Buhari to decide what he wants to do about that. And I think this China-Africa will follow the same, kind of path. Because what we are trying to do is to enrich policy formulation, in Nigeria. Let us, in our own little way, make sure everybody's criticizing government, not doing this, not doing that. What is it that we are doing to help government? So, in our own modest way, we want to enrich, the discussion on issues and influence positively.
Are you one of those who thinks that it is too early to assess President Muhammadu Buhari?
It is too early, and I say that with utmost seriousness and humility. The damage that has been done to the economy of this country, as we are now seeing, probably we wouldn't have seen it if President Buhari didn't win that election. It's just so much. In other climes, presidents and prime ministers facing this kind of situation will be saying to their citizens that it is now time, for making sacrifices. Saying that our economy is in a dire strait,
Yes.
and we have to impose strict measures. You'll be hearing that from prime ministers and presidents.
Yes.
Obama did the same thing. Mrs. Thatcher during her time. You
She
know.
was awesome.
Yes. You know, I believe that is what should be happening here in Nigeria. A time for discipline. And we've got to go through this for maybe the whole first term
Yes.
of Buhari. It's unfortunate that those who are going to be affected mostly by this, apart from the people, will be the private sector. We've got to find a way, you know, of supporting the private sector, because we need the private sector, especially when it comes to the creation of jobs
Yes.
that we want, especially for the youths. When people are talking about the president's body language,
Yes.
I think the president should try and moderate his body language in such a way that the private sector will not see him as
As hostile.
to
Yes.
the private sector.
Yes, yes. And I can't have you here on a final note without talking about Delegiwa and his death on the 19th day of October 1986. Have you recovered? Do you have a hearing fully now in the ear that became problematic after that bombing?
It's going to be 30 years
Yes.
this October. People will not know that I still have hearing problems up till today. It has improved, but this is weak. This is the sharper as a result of the blast.
Right.
And when it happened, I couldn't hear at all. As close as you are to me. If you
Yeah.
are talking, I won't hear. I will just be doing lip
reading.
You
So
know.
that hiatus you took when you left Newswatch, you were also taking time out to take care of your health.
Well, immediately I left Nigeria and
Yes.
I got to the UK. I went straight to the hospital and they examined it. They saw the perforation.
Of your eardrums.
Yes, of my eardrums. Not much they could do, but that it will heal, you know, by time. You know, so that was exactly what you know happened.
What do you then say to retired DIG Chris Omeben? You know, I read his interview at his 80th birthday. He expressed regrets at not being able or being allowed to interview you, question you, after he says he made direct appeals to Ray Ekpo and Co. He says, yet they, and I'm quoting him now, allowed KAYODE SOYINKA to escape to the UK, end of quote. I've spoken with Mr. Ekpo on this matter, and of course he poo-pooed Chris Omeben's statement, saying they never prevented the police from interviewing you. Do you think Omeben's argument seems plausible, that at the time of the impact you seemed to not be there with Delegiwa?
Angela, I said earlier on that I wouldn't want to talk about Omobien
Yes.
because I wouldn't want to use your family program, you know, to give credence to
Yes.
Omobien and all those things that he said
Yes.
about me. He has criminally libeled me severally. Before this incident,
Yes.
years back, he wrote a book
About it.
accusing me also wrongly, and it was Professor Bolaji Akiyemi that reviewed that book at the Institute of International Affairs. Instructively, Professor Bolaji Akiyemi, while reviewing that book at the Institute of International Affairs,
Yes.
and got to my own mention, stopped. He paused from his script and said that he hoped that the author, Omobien, had asked for the legal advice from his lawyer
Before writing this.
before I mismentioned this allegation against KAYODE. It's not the first time. That was one time there. About 3 years ago, he granted the Sun newspaper an interview saying that before the blast, I quickly rushed into the toilet. And then last year,
Yes.
he was coming out with another version to say that I left the room or so before the, you know, and then that
Why
they,
would you want to kill Delegiwa?
please, don't even ask me that question. You know, because it is non-suiting.
Yes.
Don't even ask me. I don't even want to listen to it or to, you know, hear it, because I don't know how much you know about my personal relationship with Dele. Anytime I talk about this, it's just very emotional. Because I am a lucky person to be alive, to be talking to you. I could have been dead with him. It was only by the grace of God go I. He held it. I handed it over to him, back to him. He gave it to me, I handed it over back to him.
I thought, what if you had opened it?
Yes,
because
I could.
You have that kind of
relationship. Thank you. I could have. This is a man, Omobien, who claims today to be a reverend father. Is accusing me, who we should be protecting, as the survivor of the blast, as the first victim, apart from Dele himself, of the blast, who he should be protecting, is accusing me wrongly, the way he has, done. Let us look at him in his present position. As a believer, maybe he has not heard of situations where you will have air crash and a baby will survive.
Yes.
Air crash, where hundreds have died, a baby will survive. Or you have earthquake and buildings and all kinds of structures had collapsed. The rescue mission had been going on for days and abandoned. A week after, in the places that had been abandoned, you still see survivors.
Yes.
Coming out. And it's querying, my...
Your survival.
My survival. I'm not God. That was the way God Almighty wished it for me. I didn't realize myself the kind of favor God did me that day. Delegewa, God bless his soul. Until I returned to my family home in Ibadan after, I recovered, before we buried Dele. And when I got to Ibadan, prayers were said, for me.
Yes.
There was one bishop there. When he was praying, he was trying to explain to the community what I just went through. And the way he was explaining it, he was saying that if you throw bomb into this spot, it was very dramatic. That it's not just this spot that will be affected. It will take everybody. Can you now imagine that this our son survived? That is biblical miracle.
The thing then is,
yes.
Why have you never sued him?
Thank you very much. And I think very soon he will get my lawyer's request to come to court. Because what he has done is criminal libel, yes. Including the news agency of Nigeria that gave him that platform, to accuse me.
To utter those words.
Yeah, exactly. Because they should know that this is libelous. And if they should publish it, there are consequences. News agency of Nigeria should know that. And being someone in the same profession, they should have grabbed their telephone, at least to call me,
yes,
and say, we have this piece of information. What is your reaction? They never did that. So, including News Agency of Nigeria, I think they should be taught a lesson, because the kind of profession that we all belong is a very serious one. Before you put a word,
you better be ready to back it up.
Absolutely. You investigate and investigate and investigate until you get it right. So I always don't like to talk about this incident because I lost a very close friend. I was staying in Dele's house because that was the practice.
When you come in from England.
From England, yes. Right from our Concord days. Before he moved to that place where the bomb occurred, I was staying at Adolf Force Davis Street in Ikeja, behind the hotel, airport hotel, where he was staying as Sunday Concord, editor. Anytime I was in Nigeria. And then when he moved to this place where we had the incident,
yes.
Again, I would stay with him. And the same thing, if he came to London.
He stayed with you?
Yes. Families, family. My children grew up with his daughter, Aisha. I still have pictures of all of them in my study. The children in America, they spent holidays. I will take them from New York. They will spend holidays with me and my wife and family, in London.
Yes.
So it's a real tragedy. I don't know what offense we committed that would have necessitated taking the life, of anybody,
yes.
Like that. But so that is I don't like to talk about this Amobie, at all.
Yes. But, I had to get that out. I haven't spoken with Mr. Eku. It was only fair that speaking with you now for me to mention it. But I wish you all the best at the summit, Africa Today Summit, China-Africa. The theme is China-Africa Cooperation. who really benefits. That summit holds April 26 and 27 at the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, here in Nigeria. So hopefully we'll have live streaming of the event. People can contribute questions and comments. There will be hashtags.
Absolutely.
We'll help you put all that on the program too.
Thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you
it's
for
nice
coming on
seeing you.
60 Minutes.
And well done on the good job that you are doing.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Jitumobi.